Hello, travelers and monster catchers abound. I'm Stella Ferris, and you've crash landed on the Monster Catchers Journal podcast. Hope you enjoyed today's episode about Globbert. The morning had started quietly at the Cross Sigils Outpost. The twin suns of Nibiru were just rising over the horizon, casting gold and crimson light across the courtyard stones. I had been cataloging supply crates, while Xena argued with Luna about whether moonberry jam counted as breakfast. It was one of those peaceful mornings, the kind that never lasts. I was halfway through my tea when I heard a loud crash from outside, then another clang, nearly spilling my cup. That doesn't sound good, Xena muttered. Luna tilted her head. Sounds like metal. Another clang echoed through the outpost walls. Then something rolled across the floor outside like a loose wheel. I rushed to the courtyard window. What I saw made me blink twice. A raccoon-like creature was standing in the middle of the courtyard, but this wasn't any normal creature. Its fur was charcoal gray with silver stripes. Its eyes glowed like ember lanterns, and the strangest part of all was its tail. At the end of it was a massive stone hammerhead. Not attached, not tied. It grew there, naturally. The creature lifted its tail and brought the hammer down on a metal crate with a boom. The crate burst open like a cracked egg. Inside were our spare glyph collars. Oh no, I whispered. Luna burst into laughter. He's robbing you. The raccoon looked up at us. Then it grabbed a shiny collar piece and stuffed it into its mouth with like candy. Okay, I said slowly. New plan. Nobody panic. The raccoon suddenly spotted another metal object, a wrench. Its eyes lit up. Then wham! It smashed the wrench flat, like it was made of clay. Xena crossed her arms. I think it likes metal. That was when I realized something. This wasn't just some random creature, it was a glyph. And judging by its behavior, it had wandered into the outpost looking for something very specific. Metal. I stepped outside slowly. The raccoon turned towards me and raised its hammer tail like a weapon. Easy there, I said softly. The creature hissed. Then it struck the ground. The stone cracked beneath the hammer. Yep, I muttered, definitely a glyph. I reached for my Glyph pyramid, but something about the creature made me hesitate. It wasn't attacking. It wasn't scared. It was just excited. Like a child in a toy store, the raccoon suddenly spotted my belt buckle. Its eyes widened. Uh-oh. It lunged. I barely dodged as the hammer smashed into the stone where I had been standing. Okay, I shouted. We are not doing that again. The creature circled me, its tail swaying like a wrecking ball. Then Luna leaned over the balcony and tossed something down. A shiny metal spoon. The raccoon froze, its ears perked up. Then it ran to the spoon and picked it up delicately, like it was treasure. I blinked. Wait. Xena grinned. It's not aggressive, it's greedy. That gave me an idea. I dug through my satchel and pulled out a handful of metal nuts and bolts from an old rover repair kit. I scattered them across the ground. The raccoon gasped, and rushed over to them. It began collecting them rapidly, stuffing them into a pouch of fur near its belly. Yes, it had a pouch. This creature was strange the more I watched it. While it was distracted, I activated the Glyph pyramid. A beam of golden light surrounded the raccoon. The creature looked up at me. For a moment I thought it might fight. Instead, it dropped the spoon and tapped the pyramid gently with its hammer tail. Almost like it understood. The beam pulsed, the pyramid sealed. I stared at the glowing artifact in my hand. Silence filled the courtyard. Then Luna cheered. You caught it, I laughed. I guess I did. Later that afternoon, we released the creature into the training yard. The raccoon stretched and shook its fur. Then it lifted its hammer tail proudly. I crouched down beside it. Well, you can't just be mystery, raccoon, I said. The creature bonked a rock with its hammer. Then it picked up a shiny bolt and offered it to me. I smiled. All right, I said. I think I'll call you Globbert. The name stuck instantly. Globbert wagged his hammer tail happily. Then he smashed a pumpkin by accident. Luna laughed. Xena groaned, and just like that, the outpost had a new resident and a new demolition problem. But I wouldn't trade Globbert for anything, because sometimes the best glyph partners aren't the strongest or the rarest. Sometimes they're just the ones who wander into your courtyard, steal your metal spoons, and decide you're their new family. The first few days after catching Globbert were chaotic. Not dangerous, just loud. Very loud. Every morning I would wake up to the sound of something metal being smashed somewhere around the Cross Sigils Outpost. Clank, bang, wham! The first time it happened, I thought the outpost was under attack. It wasn't. It was just Globbert discovering a pile of old rover parts. He loved metal more than any glyph I had ever seen. Bolts, pipes, spoons, old armor plates. If it was metal, Globbert wanted it. And if he wanted it badly enough, he used his hammer tail to get it. A new problem that arose all the time. One afternoon I was writing notes in my journal when Zenna came running into the courtyard. "Stella Ferris," she yelled. "What happened now?" I asked. Zenna pointed towards the workshop. "You need to see what your raccoon did." I already knew that sentence couldn't end well. When I stepped inside the workshop, I stopped dead in my tracks. The entire repair bench had been smashed flat. Tools were everywhere, metal shards littered the floor, and in the center of it all, Globbert sat proudly. He had stacked a mountain of shiny parts around himself like a dragon guarding a treasure. When he saw me, he was wagging his hammer tail happily. Then he held up a shiny bolt like he was giving me a gift. I sighed. Well, at least you're generous. Later that evening, something strange happened. Orabeak suddenly flew down into the courtyard screaming, "Caw! Caw!" Luna looked up. That's not a happy noise. I stepped outside. Down the road turned verdant market. Smoke rose into the sky. Zenna grabbed her gear. That's not good. We rushed towards the market. When we arrived, merchants were shouting and running everywhere. A rogue scrap machine, an old mining automation had gone berserk. Its spinning saw arms were cutting through carts and metal stalls. Nobody could get close to it. Every weapon bounced off its steel shell. The machine smashed through another stand. Metal crates exploded into the street. Then I felt something brush past my leg. Globbert. He had followed us. Globbert stared at the giant metal machine. His ears perked, his eyes lit up. Then he looked up at me. Then at the machine again. I suddenly realized what he was thinking. "Oh no," I whispered. "Too late," Globbert charged. "Globbert, wait!" The raccoon, Glyph, leapt onto the machine's back. The automation spun wildly, trying to shake him off. Globbert raised his hammer tail high. Then wham! The hammer smashed directly into the machine's central joint. Metal cracked. The machine staggered. Globbert hit it again. Wham! A huge dent appeared. The spinning saw arms slowed. Again, Globbert. Luna shouted. The raccoon Glyph gave an excited squeak. Then he delivered the biggest hammer strike yet. Boom! The machine collapsed into a heap of scrap. Silence fell over the market. Then the merchants began cheering. Silence fell over the market. A thick silence. Then the merchants began cheering. Globbert climbed onto the wreckage proudly. He picked up a shiny metal plate and held it up like a trophy. I laughed. All right, I said. You earned that one. Later that night, back at the outpost, I wrote in my journal. Glyph name, Globbert. Species, hammer-tail raccoon glyph. Behavior, mischief but loyal. Special trait, loves metal objects. Battle ability, heavy impact hammer strikes. Globbert curled up beside my chair. He was chewing happily on a metal bolt like it was candy. I scratched behind his ear. You know, I said quietly, you might be the strangest glyph I've ever caught. Globbert looked up at me. Then he gently tapped my boot with his hammer tail. Not hard, just a little bonk. Almost like a promise, and somehow I knew something. This little raccoon with the hammer tail was going to become one of the most important glyphs at the Cross Sigils Outpost. The next week, I discovered something that changed everything I thought I knew about Globbert. At first, nothing seemed different. He was still the same mischievous raccoon glyph that loved smashing metal and collecting shiny parts. Every morning, I still woke up to the sound of hammer strikes echoing through the Cross Sigils Outpost. Clink, bang, wham! Zena had already started hiding the important tools. Luna had started betting on what Globbert would break next. But one night something unusual happened. The twin suns of Nibiru were glowing bright over the outpost courtyard. I had stayed up late cataloging supplies while Globbert sat nearby chewing happily on a loose bolt. Then suddenly he stopped. His ear twitched. His tail lifted into the air. At first I thought he had heard something outside the walls, but then his body began to glow, not bright, just a soft golden shimmer spreading through his fur. "Zena," I called. She rushed into the courtyard just as the glow grew stronger. Globbert squeaked nervously and hopped around in circles. Then the hammer on the end of his tail began to change. The metal shifted, the shape stretched, the hammer flattened and thinned into something new. A wrench. Zena blinked. Did his tail just turn into a wrench? Before I could answer, the shape changed again. The wrench twisted and reshaped itself. Now it was a screwdriver, then a saw blade, then a drill. Luna leaned over the balcony. "Okay, that's amazing." The glow around Globbert flared once more. His body grew slightly larger, his fur thicker, his markings brighter. The spiral pattern on his back sharpened into glowing tool-like shapes. The light faded. Globbert stood proudly in the middle of the courtyard, but he wasn't the same anymore. I slowly opened my journal. "Globbert," I whispered. "No." The raccoon glyph lifted its tail, the hammer returning to its original shape with a metallic clink. Then he tapped the ground proudly. I smiled. Hamfet. The name felt right instantly, because this wasn't just a hammer-tailed raccoon anymore. This was something new, something special. The next morning, we tested Hamfet's new abilities. I brought out a broken rover engine from the workshop. "Hamfet," I said, "let's see what you can do." The raccoon tilted its head, then his tail shifted again. The hammer reshaped into a wrench. Hamfet tightened a loosened bolt. Then the tail changed again. A screwdriver. He fixed the engine panel. Then a drill. He repaired a cracked plate. Within minutes, the engine was working again. Zena stared at the machine. "You're telling me we just caught a living toolbox?" Luna laughed from the balcony. "A very cute toolbox." From that day on, Hamfet became one of the most important glyphs at the Cross Sigils Outpost. Broken doors, Hamfet fixed them. Damaged rovers parts, Hamfet repaired them. Bent armor plates, Hamfet hammered them straight. And when trouble appeared, the hammer always came back. I wrote one final note in my journal that night. Glyph evolution recorded. Globbert to Hamfet. Ability tool morph tail. Function, construction, repair, and combat. Hamfet curled up beside my desk as I finished writing. His tail gently bonked the floor like a sleeping hammer. I smiled and scratched behind his ears. "You might not be the biggest glyph here," I told him, "but you might just be the most important one." Hamfet squeaked happily. Then his tail turned into a tiny wrench, and he fixed my broken lantern. So after he evolved from Globbert to Hamfet, life at the Cross Sigils Outpost changed almost overnight. At first we thought his new tool tail was just convenient. A living toolbox is pretty useful when half the equipment at the outpost is held together with spare bolts and wishful thinking. But over the next few days, something strange started happening. Hamfet wasn't just fixing things, he was improving them. One morning, Zena wheeled in an old rover engine that had been sitting in storage for months. "This thing's a lost cause," she said. I shrugged. "Let Hamlet look at it." Hamfet. Hamfet hopped onto the workbench, his tail shifted. Hammer, wrench, drill, saw. The tools switched so quickly it was almost impossible to follow. Within 10 minutes, the rover engine roared to life. But that wasn't the strangest part. It ran better than it ever had before. Zena blinked at the dashboard. This engine used to max out at 60. She tapped the throttle. The meter climbed to 120. Luna leaned over the rover and stared at Hamfet. Did he upgrade the engine? Hamfet proudly tapped the hood with his hammer toe. That night, I stayed up late reading through the old academy notes from Luan Academy. There was something familiar about Hamfet's ability, something I had read before. After hours searching, I finally found it. Buried deep in the old Glyph study was a short passage about a rare class of glyph called forge glyphs. Glyphs that didn't just bind things, they enhanced them. Their tools carried strange energy that could strengthen metal, reinforce structures, and sometimes even power machines. I slowly looked over at Hamfit, sleeping beside the workshop bench. "Zena," I whispered, "I think Hamfit is a forge glyph." Zena's eyes widened. "Those are legendary." Luna whistled softly. "That means—" "Yes," I said quietly. "Hamfit might be the most important glyph at the outpost." Unfortunately, word travels fast across Verdant Market. A few days later, something happened that proved just how valuable Hamfit really was. Just after sunset, the alarms at the outpost began ringing. Clang, clang, clang. Zena ran into the courtyard. "We've got raiders!" A gang of scrap thieves had arrived in armored machines trying to steal the outpost equipment and glyph gear. Their vehicles were huge, walking rigs made of scavenged metal, too thick for normal weapons. One of the machines smashed through the front gate. "Stand back!" Luna shouted, but Hamfit didn't. He ran forward, straight towards the massive metal walker. Hamfit shouted, I shouted, sorry, but the raccoon glyph already had a plan. His tail shifted, not into a hammer, not into a wrench, something new, a glowing cutting torch. Hamfit leaped onto the machine and sliced through its joints like butter. Metal screamed, the walker collapsed. The other raiders froze, then Hamfit's tail snapped back into a hammer. Wham! The second machine lost a wheel. The thieves ran fast. After the fight, we stood in the quiet courtyard staring at Hamfit. Zena crossed her arms. "Well," Luna grinned, "I think he's just saved our outpost." I knelt beside Hamfit and scratched behind his ears. "You're not just a repair glyph, are you?" Hamfit squeaked proudly. Then his tail turned into a wrench and tightened a loose bolt on the gate he had just saved. I laughed. "All right." I wrote one last note in my journal that night. Hamfit. Evolution of Globbert. Class Forge Glyph. Ability Toolmorph Tail. Role Builder, Engineer, Defender of the Cross Sigils Outpost. Hamfit curled up beside the workbench again and fell asleep. His tail slowly shifted back into a hammer, and for the first time since he arrived, the outpost was quiet. After the chaos with the scrap raiders and Hamfit saving the outpost, we were all exhausted. The Cross Sigils Outpost had been busy for weeks. Glyph rescues, repairs, patrols through Verdant Market, and now a forge glyph that could accidentally upgrade half of the town if we weren't careful. Even Hamfit looked tired. His hammer tail barely bonked the floor anymore. So, that evening, I made a decision. "We're taking a break," I said. Zena looked up from the repair table. "A break?" Luna leaned over the railing. "You mean like a vacation?" I smiled. "Yes." Not far from the outpost, beyond the glowing forest and mineral cliffs of Terraformia, there were natural hot springs. They were famous across the region. Warm mineral pools formed by underground magma vents. The water shimmered with soft blue light, and steam rose into the night air like glowing clouds. Travelers came from all over Nibiru to relax there, and honestly, we needed it. "Hamfit deserves a rest too," I said. Hamfit perked up immediately. His tail turned into a tiny wrench and tightened a buckle on my satchel like he was helping pack. Luna laughed. "Even on vacation, he's working." By nightfall, we were on the road. The twin suns and the 3 moons lit the path through the glowing Terraformia forest. Strange crystal flowers glimmered along the trail, while the wind rustled the leaves of the tall moon trees. Hamfit rode happily on the back of our rover. Every once in a while, his tail would shift into a hammer and gently tap the side of the vehicle like he was keeping rhythm with the engine. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Zena chuckled. "I think he likes road trips." When we finally reached the Terraformia hot springs, the place looked magical. The springs were carved into natural stone terraces filled with glowing blue water. Steam floated through the air, and the entire valley smelt faintly of warm minerals and night flowers. A few travelers were already soaking quietly in the pools. I kicked off my boots and sighed. This is perfect. Luna jumped straight into the water with a splash. Oh, wow. Zena slowly lowered herself into the spring. Okay, I needed this. Hamfit stared at the water curiously. He dipped one paw into the pool, then the other. Then his whole body slid into the warm water. His hammer tail floated like a little buoyant buoy behind him. For the first time since we caught him, Hamfit looked completely relaxed. He floated on his back in the hot spring with his paws in the air. The hammer tail slowly shifted into a massage roller. Zena burst into laughter. Did his tail just turn into a spa tool? Hamfit happily rolled the tool across his shoulders. Luna splashed water toward him. You're living the dream, little guy. Steam drifted through the valley while the moons and suns reflected across the glowing water. For a while, none of us said anything, just quiet, peace, exactly what we needed. But of course, nothing in our lives stays quiet for long. As I leaned back against the warm stone of the spring, Hamfit suddenly sat up. His ears twitched. His tail shifted into a wrench. He stared at the rocks behind the spring. Then he bonked the stone. Clink! That sound didn't belong to normal rock. Zena climbed out of the water. What is it? Hamfit began digging carefully with a drill tail. Within seconds, something shiny appeared beneath the stone. A glowing metal plate covered in ancient glyph markings. Luna's eyes widened. Stellaferis? I stepped closer and brushed the dirt away. The markings were old. Very old. Older than the outpost. Older than the verdant market. I slowly smiled. Well, I said, looks like our vacation just turned into another adventure. Hamfit proudly tapped the metal plate with his hammer tail. Bonk. So guys, that's all I have for this episode. I will come back next time with the rest of this episode. A part 2, kind of, if you will. Thank you, and I will see you next time. And may Zelthar shine his beautiful light down on you guys. Bye now.